You are Locked On Braves POSTCAST, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, your team every day.
What a night of baseball for the Atlanta Braves at Truist Park as they walk off with a victory in extra innings, and history is made as the 40-70 club was established by Ronald Acuña Jr., who was right in the middle of the late-inning heroics. Atlanta's MVP candidate helping lead the Braves to a 6-5 victory over the Cubs, secure a series win, clinch home field advantage throughout the NLCS, and there was a lot of stuff that happened in this game, and we are happy to bring it all to you. Grant McAuley, Jake Mastroianni with you here on Locked On Sports Atlanta. This is the Braves Postcast. So before we get started with everything we got to get to in this show, and again, it's a lot, and most of it's good, make sure you subscribe right here to the YouTube channel. Click that bell. You get notified every time we drop a new episode. If you like the show, we appreciate you sharing it with a friend, leaving us those comments and likes as well. Those help. And subscribe to Locked On Braves wherever you get your podcast. Jake, we've been counting down to this. I think that Ronald Acuña Jr. joining the 40-70 club may be more anticipated than just about any finale in television history that I can imagine, but this year ain't over yet. Ronald Acuña Jr. and the Braves aren't done yet, and if anything, they're showing you that come October, they may have some of the most dramatic episodes yet.
And the way that he got it in this game, you know, the fashion that he did, I mean, you had to have it to win these games, coming up big, stealing those bases. I mean, just an incredible season, an incredible feat for him. And like you said, I mean, who knows where else he goes? I can't wait to see what he does in the postseason.
No, he's an incredible player. He's must-see TV. You got to buy a ticket. As Brian Snitker says, don't get up out of your seat and go buy a beer because you might miss something special. And on this night, there were quite a few special things on the docket for Ronald Acuña Jr. and the Braves. Let's talk about a game number 158 of the season for Atlanta. It's a victory. It pushes the Braves to 102-56. 6 runs on 9 hits, no errors, 5 men left aboard for the Braves. Cubs, meanwhile, they grabbed the early lead. We're going to talk about how exactly they were scoring some of their runs. But this is another, I don't want to say devastating, but this is a loss that has got to be way up there with some of the worst of the season, at least the worst in the past 24 hours, because once again, Chicago had a chance to win a very important game to take a step towards October and was unable to finish off Atlanta. 82-76 now, 5 runs, 7 hits, 1 error, 7 men left on base for the Cubs. Jesse Chavez picks up the win in relief. He pitched the 10th inning. He's now 1-0, and Daniel Palencia took the loss. He was walked off in the bottom of the 10th, now 5-3 on the year. I think we need to talk about Ronald Acuña Jr. and the history he made first and foremost. He leads things off for the Braves in so many different ways. He's atop the lineup every single night. He is in the midst of huge rallies and big moments for this club, it seems like time and again. And he used his wheels on this night, Jake, to pick up not 1 but 2 huge stolen bases, as he had 1 in the 8th inning to score the tying run there. And I know this was a back-and-forth battle, but the Braves, they needed it. Ronald Acuña Jr. helped provide it. Ozzie Albies drove him in for the first of 2 times. And then, of course, in the 10th inning, after tying it with his own rocket single out to right center field, Acuña steals base number 70. He pulls it right out of the ground, Rickey Henderson style, and holds it aloft over his head. A really cool moment. I think that one's going to live on Braves social media for quite some time. But then it's Ozzie Albies chasing Ronald Acuña Jr. home with the head-first slide and the 6-5 Braves win. We knew this history was coming. It just felt like it was inevitable once he reached the 40 home runs and was knocking on the door of the 70 steals. Came in 2 away tonight, and Jake, I don't know that he could have picked a better time or 2 better situations to show you, if you're still wondering, stolen bases really do count, and they are important.
They certainly are. I mean, you saw it in this game. I mean, this is a microcosm of what makes Ronald Acuña Jr. so special and separates him from everybody else. I mean, he took over at the end of this game, you know, getting on base, stealing the bag, coming around and scoring. Not a lot of runners score on those hits either. I mean, some of those, were close plays at home, but only Ronald able to get in there and score those runs. And similar to yesterday, kind of quiet for the beginning of the game, didn't really do much. And then bam, just like that, he can impact a baseball game. Had the 2-run homer last night, and then in this game, gets the hit, steals the base, tying run, gets the hit that ties the game, scores a run to win the game. I mean, it's just so impactful what he can do for your team and how quickly he can flip a game when he gets on base, and just that speed that you have and what that does to everybody else, the pitcher, catcher, all got to be super aware of what Ronald's doing on the base pass.
Yeah, impactful, some would say valuable, perhaps most valuable with the things that he's doing. I'm going to leave those there. But 2 for 5 on this night. The 2 runs scored, 1 run knocked in. His buddy Ozzie Albies, 3 for 5. He knocked in 3 runs. That also included his 34th homer of the year. Got the Braves on the board early on with that blast, which for Ozzie just continues a great season for him. And we talked so much about Ronald Acuña Jr. and the value he provides and, the player that he is becoming into this year. Just thinking about having both of these guys back and operating at the maximum health was something that you felt like was going to be a key to success for the Braves. And Ozzie and Ronald have been keys to success for the Braves all year long. Another home run in this game belonged to Marcell Ozuna. It came in the 9th inning. It tied things up. It sent the game to extra innings. But I have to hearken all the way back to the 2nd inning, Jake, where we saw one of the more bizarre plays. We saw Brian Snitker get ejected from the game, and for good reason. And he got his money's worth out of it as well. But Dan Bellino, the home plate umpire, ruled that it was a passed ball on Sean Murphy on what was a clear foul ball that went off his glove, I believe off the umpire's shin guard, and bounced away. Sean, as most catchers do after a foul ball, reached back to get a new ball from the umpire, but he was not given one. The ball had gone all the way to the Cubs on deck circle. Run comes across the plate. That tied up the game at that point. They slowed things down. The umpires did a conference. It accomplished nothing, and it was ruled a basically pass ball free run for the Chicago Cubs. That felt like one of those plays that was going to loom large, and as the Braves were scrapping and clawing their way to try to get every single run they could at the end of this game, and just the mere fact that it went into extra innings, you had to kind of look back at that play and wonder if that was the one that was going to bite the Braves on this night.
You certainly felt like it was at that point. I mean, you're giving the other team a free run, and look, you can't do this in baseball and say that everything else would have played out the same way, but, Vines gets the next 2 guys out, and runner wouldn't have scored on that, and obviously that run wouldn't have gone on the board. But I think these umpires were smart. They wanted to figure out a way to manipulate things to get the ending to this game that we got.
Hey.
And what an incredible ending that we did get. And think about it too. I mean, again, if everything plays out the same, Ozuna's home run could have been a walk-off home run. That would have been really exciting as well. But I don't know how you missed it. I was listening on radio at that time, and Ben saying, how do all 4 umpires not see that? Like, somebody on the field has to see that. And it has to be a pretty big clue when the catcher reaches his hand back for a baseball to say, hey, I missed something here.
Yeah, and I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time, more time on this because it was a play that ultimately did not matter. But we could be having a very different show right now were the Cubs to have ended up winning by 1 run. Thankfully, that did not happen. But as you pointed out, sometimes the blessing that comes with a play that doesn't go your way, like maybe the NLDS Grand Slam we got from Ronald Acuña Jr. that could have been very different had Sean Newcomb had a different fate in the previous at-bat. Well, I don't know. It's a butterfly effect or something, but either way, the Braves will take it. They picked up this win. We're going to talk about Darius Vines, who was a big part of that after I tell you about our friends over at Jace Medical. They're the sponsor, or one of the sponsors, of this edition of the Braves Postcast. And Jace Medical, it's simple. You go online, fill out a form, and then you get those prescriptions, your life-saving medications right to your door. The Jace case gives you that peace of mind because no one wants to just be left wondering and hoping to have access to their medication in an emergency. Jace Medical makes sure you have that medication in hand. Right now, you can save more than $360 from Jace Medical, plus an additional $20 off by using the code LOCKEDON at checkout. That's jacemedical.com, J-A-S-E medical.com. So the Braves, they needed someone to come in and give them some innings in this series. It was TBD and TBD. We're going to be following Bryce Elder. Obviously, Bryce's start did not last as long as the Braves were hoping in the opener. They overcame that to win Game 1. Game 2, though, Darius Vines. He's done this a couple of times now, Jake. 6 innings, 3 earned, and the pass ball was the one unearned run. Allowed a couple of solo home runs, but I can tell you this. If you're getting a quality start out of Darius Vines and keeping this offense in the game, as we've seen and as we saw again tonight, you give the Braves a chance to win a game with the kind of bats that they have and the moments that they tend to find as the game rolls on.
Again, he's been really good here lately, whether it's been in a bullpen role like he's been with the Braves, and even in Gwinnett. I said, he had 6 shutout innings coming out of the bullpen for Gwinnett in his last outing as well. He's been really great here down the stretch, and this is reminiscent to me of that start Alan Winans had in New York when the rotation had really gone through it, and they needed somebody to give them some innings, and Winans stepped up and did that. So this is exactly, the case here with the Braves. They needed somebody to give them some innings. Look, I was going into this hoping he gets through the lineup, twice. Maybe he gives you 4+ innings. He got through 5. Fantastic. He got through 6. And not only that, like you said, a quality start. The only 2 real runs he gave up came on a couple of solo home runs. I mean, other than that, he was really, really good. So big start there from Darius Vines to help out this pitching staff. And as you said, just got to keep this offense in the game, give them a chance. And, at some point they're usually going to break through.
Yeah, 6 innings of 3-run ball. Again, only 2 of those earned, only 2 walks, 5 strikeouts. And I think you kind of hinted at this earlier, but I want to make sure that we really point it out. And you've said this about several different things. When it doesn't go your way, How do you respond to that? Well, Darius Vines, that pass ball, that wasn't what he had in mind, but he did not let that derail him, and he did not let it spiral out of control and turn into a big inning for the Chicago Cubs. He simply went back out to the mound, made some pitches, got out of that trouble, did give up a couple of solo home runs, but I think you can live with that if you're going to get 6 quality innings, and they did out of the young righty on this night. Unfortunately, he doesn't pick up the win, but he helped his club pick up a win with his excellent job of pitching. Braves with their home runs in this game, Ozzie Albies and Marcell Ozuna, that gives them 2 more, puts them at 303 on the year. They're now just 4 away from matching the Minnesota Twins of 2019 for most home runs hit by a team in a single season in Major League Baseball history. I think that, as far as foregone conclusions are concerned, Braves are averaging 2 home runs a game by some very simple math. With 4 games left to go, they've got a very good chance to break this record. We'll see how soon the Braves can do it, because we've seen some games where it could happen in one night. It's an offense that is sudden. It's an offense that is powerful, and it's an offense that we've seen. And I know I talked a little bit about this over the past week in some of these games in which the Braves have won, but Jake, Atlanta has shown that this is not the team that we saw a year ago that was really dependent on big home runs and really had the contact problems. This was a night in which, they got a couple of home runs, and one of them in a huge spot by Marcell Ozuna, who tied his career high with 37 now on the year as his resurgence continues. But they were able to manufacture runs when they needed them most and the extra innings to pick up the victory that they very much needed over the Cubs, who had scored in the top half of the 10th against Jesse Chavez.
It's one of the biggest things about this offense. We've discussed it, last year and even previous years, they've had this home run power, but it's come at the expense of, being near the tops of the league in strikeouts. Well, not only has Ronald Acuña Jr. cut his strikeout rate 10%, a lot of the other players on this team have been able to limit the strikeouts as well. And when you do that, it's going to give you the opportunities to score without the need of a home run, which again, they still do by far better than anyone. So it just makes what was already a powerful offense just so much more dangerous, because they can, get those hits. They'll take a shot the other way. Look at Acuña's hits in this game. It's 41 home runs on the year, and in this game, he just shoots a couple balls the other way to get on base. It's what this team can do. They're so much better in 2-strike situations as well. So again, it's just a more well-rounded offense. They'll take their walks as well. It's the best offense in baseball, Grant. We've seen it all year, and certainly know that.
Yeah, I don't know, let's print the poster, slap it on a T-shirt, what have you. But yeah, this is the best offense in baseball, and I think that it's shown time and again that it's not a one-dimensional offense either. And Ronald Acuña Jr. is the figurehead of that. Jake just mentioned it. You cut your strikeout rate in half year over year. That's a pretty impressive feat in and of itself, and it probably speaks to a lot of the other numbers and a lot of the other league-leading totals that Ronald Acuña Jr. and the Braves have as a result of the improved approach. Some big stuff happening in this game. I talked about it at the top of the show, but it's important to point this out a couple of different times. Braves secured home field advantage through the NLCS. I talked to Brian Snitker prior to the game. He said that is great. We got to get there. So obviously they have to, check all those boxes along their way to get to the NLCS. Their magic number for home field all the way throughout the World Series is down to 1. The Baltimore Orioles are the team that they are trying to fight off as far as that is concerned. But Jake, I think that the Braves, if you were worried about them in September, were they going to hold on to that best record? Were they going to just kind of sputter and run out of gas heading towards the finish line of the regular season? The answer to that question, as we've discovered, even through some anxious nights and crazy moments, is no.
Yeah, after they clinched the division, I think they lost 5 of 6 there, and people wondered, are they going to lose that lead on the top spot? Well, they bounced back, and I love this game for the Cubs, or the series with the Cubs, because they're a team fighting for a postseason spot. Kind of, re-engages that postseason atmosphere, getting locked in. I think the Braves have certainly done that here. And again, it's great to have that top overall seed, have that best record, but it's meaningless if you don't advance past the division series.
Yeah, that's mildly important. And the Braves did have that home field advantage against the Dodgers in the 2021 NLCS, and I think it played big dividends as far as that is concerned. And we heard Ronald Acuña Jr. talking about it on the Bally Sports broadcast right after scoring that run to win this game. It felt like the postseason, and they're excited to get into the postseason and have moments like this. And the Braves offense does appear to be one that's going to be able to provide some moments. So a very exciting win for Ronald Acuña Jr. and the Braves, who have secured a series win over the Cubs, who again could not afford to come into Atlanta and lose a series. Now they're going to try to avoid getting swept in the finale on Thursday. We'll talk about that more in a moment, but I'll tell you about our other great sponsor of this edition of the Braves Postcast. It is Nutrafol, and if you take the first step to visibly thicker, healthier hair, for a limited time, Nutrafol will help you out with that. They're offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com/min and enter the promo code LOCKEDONMLB. Find out why over 4,000 healthcare professionals recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com/men, spelled Nutrafol.com/locked-on, or excuse me, /men, and enter the promo code LOCKEDONMLB. That's Nutrafol.com/men, promo code LOCKEDONMLB. Promo code sweep for the Braves on Thursday. That's what they're hoping to enter against the Chicago Cubs. It's going to be A.J. Smith-Shawver coming up from AAA Gwinnett. He is 1-0, be making his 5th start of the season. And righty Marcus Stroman, who has been down for the Cubs a lot in the second half on the injured list, 10-8. He's going to try to help the Cubs avoid a sweep that could really push them out of position in the final, 3 games that will be remaining after that in a 4-team race for one of those wild card spots. Actually, 2 of those wild card spots are up for grabs. It could get a little crazy for the Cubs. They can't afford another loss, Jake.
They cannot. I mean, they're tied with the Marlins right now, who split a doubleheader with the Mets on Wednesday. So they cannot fall a game back. They fall a game back, they're essentially 2 games back because of the tiebreaker. So a huge game for the Cubs. They got to have Stroman, who has been fantastic. Obviously had the injury, been out for a while. Don't know how much he'll be able to go. I think he threw 60-something pitches last time out. So he's continuing to try to get stretched back out as well. Same for A.J. Smith-Shawver, who's mostly been going 2 or 3 innings here lately. I don't know how long he'll be able to go. So we'll see. Could be up to the bullpens in this one. The Braves bullpen's been dynamite in this series.
Yeah, I would expect if A.J. Smith-Shawver is limited to that 2, 3, 4 inning route that you'll probably see Kyle Wright. I asked Brian Snitker about him today, what he needed to see and what they're planning to do with Kyle over the course of the final few days of the season. He said, we're going to look to get him in here pretty soon. So I would expect that Kyle Wright could be the first call out of that bullpen, or at least the one who will pick up the bulk of the innings should the Braves need him. And it sounds like they might, with A.J. Smith-Shawver still a little bit limited. He has been dealing with some things down in AAA Gwinnett, but a high-powered arm and a guy that the Braves are very high on, getting an opportunity to help him close out a series sweep against the Cubs and Marcus Stroman. 7:20 p.m. Eastern Time, the first pitch at Truist Park, as the Braves look to sweep away the Chicago Cubs in a 3-game series. That's going to wrap things up for this edition of the Braves Postcast on Locked On Sports Atlanta. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Click the bell to get those notifications every time we drop a new episode. Leave us a like and a comment. We appreciate those. Share the show with a friend and subscribe to Locked On Braves wherever you get your podcast. Once again, an exciting night for the Braves. They win at 6-5 in 10 innings, thanks in large part to MVP candidate Ronald Acuña Jr. as he established the 40-70 club with 2 key stolen bases, a big run batted in, and 2 big runs scored to help the Braves win this baseball game. For Jake Mastroianni, I'm Grant McAuley. We will catch you next time, and until then, so long, everyone.